Feels good to see crooked cops getting nailed for their crazy acts. Cops everywhere have only one duty: to maintain peace and order and to ensure the safety of the citizens. But what happens when some of the crooked ones do otherwise? This partially impaired man was about to school this lady cop who alleged that he had a weapon in his back pocket.
What's this in your back pocket? I just saw you walking it.
It's a navigational aid. What's the problem? You a tyrant?
Yeah, I am actually. What's your name and date of birth?
I don't have to give that unless
Yes, sir. I was investigating.
You have reasonable.
Do you want me to put you in handcuffs right now? Yes, sir, I do.
What is your suspicion?
It looks like you're carrying a gun in your back pocket. I'm stopping to make sure you're carrying it properly. You don't
have you ensured that it's not a firearm?
Even after proving that it was only his walking cane as he is partially impaired, Officer Gordy still went ahead, claiming that he was being detained for no particular reason other than not complying with her unlawful act and the continued assertion of the violation of his rights.
No, sir, I'm doing my job.
Am I detained?
Yeah, you are. What's your name and date of birth?
It does not matter.
Yes, sir, it does.
Do you have a crime?
Would you like me
Call
to
your
put you in?
supervisor,
He's right
please.
here.
When the partially impaired man, now identified as Jim Hodges, requested to speak with the supervisor, he didn't get what he expected. Rather than simply confirm Jim's narrative, this second officer, Sergeant Randy Harrison, instead assisted Officer Gordy in handcuffing Jim. Both officers were suspended after Jim, through the help of a large number of people who criticized the officers' unprofessionalism, pressed charges against them. If you think that these cops were dumb, you should see this next one. I mean, how does a cop not know the law legally? It is scary.
What lawful basis was there for you to ask for her ID?
I don't know.
In order to detain somebody, what do you have to have legally? Do you know?
I do not know the law legally.
Okay. Doesn't there have to be reasonable suspicion that the person committed a criminal offense or violated a law?
Because I don't know the law exactly.
You don't know when an officer is allowed to detain somebody?
Officer Jennifer Larson and Lieutenant Donald Malazzo, who have both been in the force for 20 and 22 years respectively, shamefully admitted their ignorance on matters of the law after unlawfully arresting and detaining a YouTuber named Samantha. Samantha, known as Pink Camera Magic on YouTube, was on her own making a video outside of the Cook County Courthouse when Lieutenant Donald came out to her, claiming that she was acting suspicious and would be detained.
Okay, call your lawyer.
That includes my camera as far as consent.
Well, it's already on.
Are you familiar with the Fourth Amendment?
Oh, great. Why do we always get the crazies?
I don't know.
Asserting her rights of the Fifth Amendment and refusing to give up identification, Officer Jennifer and Lieutenant Donald both put her in cuffs and wrongfully charged her with obstruction. She was released afterward and charges were pressed against them. Both officers are still being investigated. Yet, it never ends. In fact, it gets even worse. These two dudes got into their car after they went shopping, when Officer Jones stopped them and requested for their ID based on suspicion.
For what?
Because I told you to.
You haven't have a reason, sir. You didn't pull me over. But you didn't pull me over.
Get the license out, or I'll hit for a backup, and I'll take
your
you out of the car. Get your driver's license.
Call your supervisor, sir.
Get your driver's license out right.
He insisted that they were acting suspiciously and they needed to provide proof of their identity. One of the guys, named Aaron, stated that he had only gone shopping, and they truly paid for all that they got.
I got my rights to do anything I want to do. I'm a police officer.
You can't that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything.
I'll pull you over and I'll tow your car.
A couple of minutes later, another officer came to de-escalate the situation, stating that neither of them, both officers, had any reason to believe any crime had been committed, and that they were not legally bound to give him an ID.
Yeah, as far as I know, based upon what happened, I don't think either of us have any reasonable suspicion to believe that there's a crime taking place.
Officer Jones was fired within 2 hours after his superior reviewed the video. You could applaud these citizens for knowing their rights and sticking to them, but what do you think will be the end of a crooked cop stewed by an attorney? Assistant District Attorney Kenneth Grants was sitting in his parked truck when a Blanchard officer came to him, asking him all sorts of ridiculous questions and eventually asking to see his ID.
Well, I like to identify you, just know who I'm dealing with, make sure. Well, if I'm making contact with you for a reasonable suspicion call like I am right now.
Being suspicious is a misdemeanor or felony.
Okay.
Grants, being an attorney, which was not yet revealed to the officer at the time, insisted on his right to the Fifth Amendment. The officer stated he had suspicion based on the call he received from a neighbor, and went as far as to say that Grants could be a burglar, owing to the fact that he had a ladder at the back of his truck.
You have to identify yourself because we're investigating a possible crime. My rights are important to me.
Not long after, a few other cops came to the scene, and Grants was eventually released on no charges. It was on this day a police officer declared a grabber for trash picking a weapon. It gets even funnier when this cop turns off his body cam audio after his colleague tells him that he is truly in the wrong. Zaid Atkinson was at the front of his residence, minding his business, when this cop stopped him. He seemed to have a problem with Zaid sitting quietly on the patio outside of his apartment. Trying to play the usual cop game on him, he requested Zaid's ID, which, knowing his rights, he refused.
Okay, what unit are you in?
I don't think I have to actually tell you that.
Well, I'm just checking to make sure that you have a right to be here, that's all.
I just told you I lived here.
Okay.
I told you that I'm...
They went back and forth on this until a faculty member came out to ascertain that Zaid really lived in the dorm building. This was after about 8 officers already surrounded the scene and over-escalated the situation. And when the threatened cop realized he was in the wrong, he turned off his body cam audio. They eventually left with their tails hanging between their legs. Yet this wasn't even as shameful as the next one you're about to watch. A cop was pulled over by his colleague for driving recklessly and found out he had downed the whole liquor house.
You been drinking tonight?
I just got a ride.
You been drinking tonight, sir?
I'm a captain on the police department. Will you please talk to me?
I'll talk to you once we're done.
You can turn it off, you can turn it on.
I can turn it off once I'm done with my investigation, sir.
Okay.
Not succumbing to the little game the drunk cop was playing about turning off his camera, his colleague put him through a couple of tests to confirm his drunken state. Alas, he wasn't just a little drunk, he was completely plastered. He failed the sobriety test and was put in cuffs to be charged. Now this is where it gets interesting. You have heard a bit about crooked cops harassing members of the community. How about the crazy ones who turn on their own? During the course of an arrest in Florida, a cop grabbed tightly to the throat of his female colleague, who was attempting to stop him from misdemeanor against the suspect. The excessive aggression against the suspect was uncalled for, and at least someone had to put him in order.
Okay, sir, I don't understand that. We clear? Yes, sir. That, please. And I'll see you in about 5 minutes.
After the incident, the female cop filed a complaint against her colleague, who happened to be her superior. He was stripped of his badge and has since been in jail. Retired police officer Luis Rodriguez was at home with his family, celebrating his daughter's 15th birthday, when some crazy officers pulled down their door with a battering ram.
Got the wrong house.
They barged into the house, claiming they were looking for someone named Curtis Rogers. After sending the man and his son out to do a round of search on them, they found out that they were in the wrong house. What they did next was funny.
I told you at the door there was no such person here.
It doesn't work like that. Everybody, everywhere we go says he ain't here.
These officers began to argue with themselves, throwing blame around and then realizing that the house they were looking for was actually across the street. It was a lucky day for Curtis, who would have been long gone before the officers pulled their shit together and searched the house. And that's even if he really lives there to begin with.
On the ground! Get on the ground! There's a gun!
Officer David Dukes had his full gear up when he received a call that 80-year-old Clarence Gaillard was allegedly armed with a gun. Officer David pointed a gun while screaming at him to get on the ground. He then brutally cuffed his hands while slamming his head to the ground. After a couple of searches, he found out that what the neighbor who called thought to be a gun was, in fact, a stick. Clarence uses this stick as a safety measure to keep dogs from attacking while walking. Officer David was fired 2 weeks later. The question of whether it's for the citizens' benefit to have cops who have so much unguided anger in them be allowed to wear a badge is yet to be answered. This homeless man and their family were going their way when this officer attacked them for no reason.
What the f are you doing?
Sir, let go of my phone, man. Sam, take my phone. What are you doing?
Hey,
Get back. Get back.
we're homeless.
You ain't a cop, man.
And we're just walking.
Show me your badge.
We're just walking across.
What the?
Well, the only actual reason was that the man's daughter dropped her candy, and this police officer started hurling insults at them, and they started to record him. In a bid to stop them from recording, the officer pounced on the man and battered him, inflicting injury on him in the process despite his 5-year-old daughter's screams.
No, don't go.
Stop.
Stop.
Look, we're just trying to watch.
I'm not being detained by you.
Doesn't get hit.
Yes, we're just trying to watch your car.
Get out of the road so your kid doesn't get hit.
You assaulted me, dude, and it's on video.
I need an officer at 400.
Yes, I was assaulted.
Then, the officer named Thurgood tried to call for backup, trying to pin a charge on the man. However, when the backup came, he tried to understand the situation from both parties, and having checked the video presented by the homeless man, Mr. Payne, the investigating officer, John Antonio, pointed out that Mr. Payne was in his rights and had not violated any law by walking on the public space.
Hey, so I guess he's gonna do the report, but he went and attacked this guy when he wasn't even on his property. Like, threw him to the ground and everything, and it's all on video. You see him leave his driveway and go into the street and then attack Jeremiah. Yeah, it's a problem. And he shows his badge and says, I'm a cop and everything. And he was trying to arrest him in the middle of the street. The whole camera, like, starts shaking and crap. His daughter's screaming and crying, and he said he had his knee on the back of his neck and he wants to prosecute, and I don't blame him, because he literally told us I was trying to detain him, but I didn't have cuffs on me. That's what he said.
As long as the police force keeps giving power to poorly trained officers, there's never gonna be an end to the misdemeanor committed by them. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.